Hey everybody, Phil Tenaya here for The Matrix Goes to School, where we use the ACT matrix to promote psychological flexibility in education. This video is about how to be an in-the-moment educator using the matrix. So I have two diagrams, matrix diagrams, one for the teacher, one for the student. Both teacher and student have come together in a classroom, and we also have the matrix up on the board in front of us. So the teacher and the student begin to experience each other. They might see each other and hear each other. They might be noticing what each of them is trying to move toward. For the teacher, it might be teaching. For the student, it might be learning. As well as they might be noticing whatever's showing up inside of them that may or may not be getting in the way. Stuff like fear, which will typically show up in most of our minds. And the idea here is that the teacher is going to promote psychological flexibility, which is the ability to notice what you're doing and how what you're doing is getting you where you want to go. The more psychologically flexible we are, the more we're available for learning and coming up with behaviors that keep us moving in important directions. So the question matrix users will ask is, how do you make the right thing easy to do? How can we set things up in the moment so that we can work together and everyone feels rewarded and satisfied for their efforts? Now, if you've already shown the matrix a little bit to the students, you can use it to stretch their awareness and your own to notice what's going on in the moment. Here's how we do it. What the teacher has to work with is words and actions. So the teacher sees the student coming into the classroom and then will send some words and actions toward the student. So something like, "Hi, glad to see you." And while the teacher's doing that, he or she might also have a smile on their face. So that information gets sent over to the student. It travels through their senses, and it usually shows up inside of most humans as a pleasant experience. And then once that student feels that pleasant experience, they might be inclined to come back up in here and to do something pleasant back, which may just be simply smiling back at the teacher. And once the student smiles back at the teacher, that travels down inside the teacher. Usually that feels pleasant as well. And what's just happened is that the student and the teacher have each rewarded each other for being in the moment in that particular place, which works very well to develop productive and workable behaviors. So now, let's say you say something as the teacher, and the student might be struggling with some type of unwanted mental experiencing like fear, or they might be angry, they might have anger showing up, or they might have some anxiety showing up. And what's happening is they're kind of stuck on it, and they're paying more attention to that than to the words that are coming down. So you might still be doing the same thing. And instead of that student coming up with a smile, if they're paying more attention to the away stuff, might come up here and they might engage in some behaviors to move away, like they might put their head down, or they might say, "Leave me alone," or something like that. And then those words and actions will travel over into the teacher. And now, instead of it feeling kind of warm and fuzzy, the teacher may notice when that stuff travels down inside, they may be feeling something like annoyance or irritation. And now, if we're practicing psychological flexibility, we can kind of notice this stuff here. We can pause, go up here into our five senses, and now we can choose a flexible response, which is going to increase the likelihood that we can help this student kind of go with us a little bit. So what we do is we have this matrix here, and we might say something like, "Yes, I hear that you're tired," or "I see you putting your head down, and I hear you saying those words. I want you to leave me alone, and I'm just wondering where they would go over here on the matrix. Do they feel like toward or away to you? Where would you put them?" Now, when we do that, what starts to happen over here is the student may begin to notice by picking their head up, and they might actually look at the board. So if they pick up their head and they look at the board, the next thing we're going to start to do is we're going to start rewarding any behavior that starts to move them in a toward direction. So a flexible response to somebody who's now looking and at least looking up at the matrix is you might say something like thanks. And now we have things heading in a little different direction because now both you and the student are looking up at the matrix, which gives the student a little bit more backed off perspective from the stuck stuff down here. Now at the same time, the teacher may still have some annoyance and irritation going on, but what they've done, instead of coming up here, they can come up here and actually do a command and control kind of a thing. And that might be kind of giving an order or a directive, which might work in the short run, but in the long run tends to lead toward more conflict. If they've chosen to come here and do a more flexible thing, such as sorting into the matrix, which we just did, they might notice that the student becomes more flexible in terms of their response, which is what we're trying to promote in the first place. And also what's happening here is instead of doing the away move, they're just taking their annoyance with them, that teacher, and they're doing a toward move in the direction of who or what's important to them. So this is one way to play it. Hope you've liked it. Talk to you later.